Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Shed, hesitation dribble, kicks it out. Wilson, left corner, three. Got it! Malik Wilson hits the left corner three to put the Cougars up by 11 with 2:53 to play. And it tipped out of bounds. McKenzie bats it away.
We were talking about a microcosm with that shot rimming out. That's also a microcosm. No easy passes allowed for Indiana this afternoon.
It ramped up midway through the first quarter, and it has not let up through all. And a standing ovation from the crowd in Champaign. Bargesser can't get it to go, got her own miss, and that will do it. And an upset in Champaign as the Illinois Fighting Illini snap a 16-game losing streak and get their first win against Indiana since February 23rd of 2013.
I think it'll be fun. I hope we have a bunch of students and, they let the guard down and have a lot of fun. We have to make this as difficult a place to play as there is in the conference. And, UConn, they call out a lot of their set plays, and it'd be nice if, the guys on the floor couldn't hear him when he was trying to call them out because it was too loud in this place. So, we'll certainly get energy from our crowd. But baskets are going to be hard to come by because they're hard to score on, and I'm hopeful that our defense is going to be the same.
How rowdy do you want?
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. I'm Ravi Lulla. David Benning here with me. What's up, DB?
How are things?
Oh, I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. Hi.
Hello.
Good.
We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
You are looking live.
That's why you said hi so many times. You wanted to say hello individually to each of our individual outlets.
Well, number one, I like Adele. Number two,
Hello.
I'm not like I'm not like, it's not over the top.
Just a fan. Like
the other thing I noticed in our stream, like my posts come twice.
Yeah, it's because we're streaming to Hurrdat.
Let's not confuse me
Sports.
this early. It's okay.
You don't have to worry about it.
So I just say hello,
Yeah,
twice
like Adele.
because that's what happens in the stream.
Yeah, it's because we're streaming to two different places.
Oh, that's nice.
So it kind of, I don't know. That's what I heard, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, and mainly we're still on radio 590.
We are still a radio show, ESPN Tri-Cities as well.
And we're out in the Tri-Cities. I love the Tri-Cities.
Yeah, you can get us the whole state.
I thought
we got you covered.
I thought Kearney may be in our district, but they are not.
Yeah,
they are not in our district. We have a very decent
decent district.
Yeah, D-Rock. See, when you're friends with administrators, they're out moving early.
Yeah,
he's throwing me off my
You got
already.
You got to be out early.
By the way, he got to go to the gym yesterday, and he's got these. Is it panoramic or scene? What it's the word when it's a nice picture? I don't think scenoramic is a word.
Scenic.
Yeah, he had this pretty picture, and he's
scenic is
at
what you're
the
looking
gym, and I was like,
panoramic is like the big sweeping shot where you've got like a wide shot.
You're big time in education. Are you guys not working today?
Listen,
because District 66 was working.
It's President's Day.
And I was like, but then I wasn't mad at him because, he's getting a good workout in. And his boys, I told you, Donovan, the other night when he's yoked.
Yeah, he said
and Darian was big.
Yeah.
I'm like, is it genetics? Because his dad is very angular. He's a long dude.
Yeah.
But he has these long arms too. I told you Darian got the shot off.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, man, I'm pretty excited. I can't wait to watch you grow. And my man said, yeah, game one. I was like, I wasn't even talking about that.
Like, we ain't got to do all that.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Barbs are flying in high school football already, so it's funny.
It's early. We got like 6 months to go.
Yeah, a lot of it's nasty out there, but it's okay.
It never stops.
Shane Nightbird, it's okay. It's okay.
Is that Don Henley?
No, it's Nightbird.
No, that was a joke.
She passed away.
R.I.P.
Simon gave her the golden ticket.
I don't know what any of that means.
I know. It's okay.
All right.
I don't even mean to say that again, but Good morning, man. It's good to hear Mac energetic.
Yeah, we got a lot going on today. Obviously, UConn and Creighton take the court tonight at the
Is that a big
CHI
game?
Health Center. It's a pretty big game.
I saw one of the greatest Creighton Bluejay hats ever.
Really?
In Lincoln, Nebraska on Sunday.
What was it?
So the team is from Omaha, obviously.
Yeah.
And the assistant coach had on the back was white mesh.
Okay.
The front was the Carolina blue.
Ooh, okay. You love the Carolina blue.
And it had the Blue Jay in like the middle. And it was so pretty. And I'm way random.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay in public when I can control the dialogue.
So you just go up to random people and talk about their
Yes. So I did the walk by. And he's probably like, oh my God, this guy's a weirdo. Because I think I touched his arm.
Did you you double take him a little bit?
Well, he's coaching. He's like trying to do something important with
Yeah.
kids. And I go, that may be one of the greatest heads I've ever seen. And I just kept on walking.
He's like whispering in his ear.
I did. I need to grow up, but it's all good.
You're like, hey, buddy, I like your hat.
we do it to ourselves. This guy's probably like, what a whack job.
What a
whack-a-doodle. But yeah, it is a big one. There will be 17-8 tonight down at
whatever capacity is. That's
at the building.
That's what'll be there.
Oh yeah. I mean, the students will be rowdy. They will be trying to give it to Hurley.
Oh yeah, I hate Hurley.
Do you?
I hate him.
No, that's kind of irrational. It's a little early for that. I wouldn't know. No Tuesday love.
No, I've always
we're fresh off
Hurley.
of Hallmark's holiday last week.
Which you're a big fan of. I remember.
Yeah, you know me and love.
My buddy texted me this last night. He was asking me because he knows I don't like Hurley. He knows I don't like Shaka. And
Shaka
Khan.
Actually Zulu, but that's a whole nother segment.
Shaka Smart. I don't.
I'm so sorry. It's a little early for where I'm at.
It's fine.
I'm stressed, man. I got friends under duress.
Sorry about that.
Which we will definitely get to as well. Obviously,
I think duress is a little strong.
But no, I really don't like Hurley.
Yeah.
It's
so there's some crazy trends tonight too. And by the way, you Ken Pomeroy, yesterday in the projected line.
UConn
I guess 3. You said it was 2.5
-2 yesterday for Ken Pom.
And what is it? What is it this morning? Because they should be out.
Believe it's 2.5. Let me double check.
Do you have access to that on your fancy computer?
I have access to the internet. Yes.
That's what we're on this morning?
I mean,
Shane, I believe that was code for you could look it up too. Am I reading it? No, I feel like that's what you meant.
No, I don't mind looking it up. It's just
I feel like that's what you were implying.
No,
is that what we're on this morning?
No, you're like, do you have access to that? It's like, yes, I have the internet on this computer.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Yeah,
it wasn't like no. I'll look it up. It doesn't take a special computer.
Shane, see, he's doubling down
on the internet. It is -2.5 UConn.
Okay.
It's right in between Ken Pom and you is the line.
Okay.
Although that's the ESPN bets line, so I don't know if that's like a real line or I don't really know what's going on there.
Are you riding with Kenneth Pomeroy tonight or?
Well, you're way more confident about Creighton tonight than I am.
I am.
Yeah,
I was confident last week.
You were. You told you told me early. No, I don't think it's that. You told me early. Hey, Creighton's winning that game.
Will
on
my
Tuesday.
pick go to sleep with fishes?
I still have. Yeah, Ken Pom still got him as a 2-point. Creighton as a 2-point dog there. I just get because I'm still emotionally invested in Creighton, right? Like I'm still
you can be objective.
No, not very well. I mean, I can have my moments when I'm like analyzing a game, but in terms of like making predictions, I'm very bad at it. So I never bet on Creighton because even when they're away and you can actually go to to our friends over at Warhorse and place your bets, like I never bet on them because I don't have that ability to remove because I either think they're way better or way worse than they are.
Right.
It's not one direction or the other. It's
one direction. Yeah, were you a big fan of that boy band?
They had a couple songs I liked. They had a couple bangers. I was like, okay, I can.
Is One Direction I Swear?
Nope, that's Boys to Men. No, that's All for One. All for One. I swear.
Yeah. Who's One Direction again?
They're a bunch of little white boys. I think they were English, maybe. Like Harry Styles? Was that One Direction, Shane? Harry Styles?
I don't know.
That's not. Come on, Shane. We're gonna use that. We're gonna use my fancy internet computer here for a second.
No. I got this. Listen, you can keep pushing if you want to. Like that's not where you were trying to go, but I fully believe that was a shot across the bow.
Yeah, Harry Styles. Yeah, they're an English boy band. One Direction. There you go. Nailed it.
Oh, it's awful early for me to be standing on business, but I may have to this morning already. Bristle up a little bit. I just think.
Yeah. So why do you're supremely confident about this? Like
because I just think that they can get. I like Mac the second time around, especially given the way that the first game went. Because I have a decent idea on his scout. UConn kind of does what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Creighton's better with wrinkles, and I think I like the way that Creighton's playing. So I know it's a different coaching staff, but UConn they haven't beat a top 25 opponent on the road since 14.
Yeah, that's a minute.
And Creighton has had, contrary to popular belief, what happened in Stores last time out. Wait, was that in Stores? It was in Stores. Didn't they play in the small gym?
Yeah, they played in the little gym on campus.
So, contrary to popular belief, Creighton has kind of had their number.
Mm-hmm. UConn's only had 2 wins against Creighton since they came in the league this year, and then they split last year.
So I'm riding with the Jays tonight.
I certainly think it's possible. I'm not
with a 3-point line. You're not going out on a limb. No. Of course, everybody thinks it's possible. It's virtually a coin flip.
But you're also talking about asking Creighton to do something they've never done before, which is beat a number 1 team in the country, right? I mean, so you're breaking a trend.
Something's got to get. Well, that's what I was trying to tell you yesterday about Nebraska before you shouted me off the air.
Oh, I didn't do anything like that.
You're like, hey, they've never a team with road conference wins has ever gotten in. I was like, it's not a rule. It's just a trend.
You were trying to put words in my mouth.
No, I wasn't.
That I think that's a good reason. And I was saying.
No, you guys were trying to insinuate that it was a rule.
No, it's not a rule.
It's just been a trend.
But until they break that trend, I don't have any reason to believe they will.
I don't like. We're gonna be pushing it this morning for friendship. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm digging your tone this morning.
Well, that's just because the voice is messed up. That's all.
What's wrong with it?
Oh, it's just I've got like the sinuses, so it's
yuck.
Got a thing happening.
I have some leftover pink amoxicillin in my fridge. Would you like
I'm actually allergic to amoxicillin.
What's wrong with you?
I mean, a lot.
It's always something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a particular.
You're
guy.
allergic to. I don't think that's odd, because I think I may be too.
Well, why do you have some?
Well, I don't take it. It's for Zoe.
Is it the pink bottle? It's for Zoe.
I think I am allergic to penicillin.
I think I'm allergic specifically to amoxicillin because I only reacted one time, but then they will never put you on it again because they don't want to kill you, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was specifically the pink amoxicillin when I was a kid.
Let me ask you something. I know you like attending basketball games.
Yes, I do.
Is this one that you want to be in the environment to be a part of beating a number 1 team, or would you like the ability to watch on your own time?
So there's 2 different answers to that question.
My gosh, why are you so complicated?
Well, that's just what I do. I'm a complex soul, DB.
Oh Lord.
As a fan,
I'm calling your wife. Is she up yet?
Oh yeah. As a fan, I want to be in the building.
Okay.
Right. As somebody who talks about and analyzes and whatever on the radio here, it probably would make more sense to watch it from home in terms of I'll get more out of the actual game, but I'll get more out of the experience if I'm in the building. So that's, I think I'm going to go, but I haven't totally decided.
Oh, you don't map that out?
I mean, I'm planning to go, but I could always change my mind last minute.
Are you a crowd guy or not a crowd guy?
I don't love it, but I'm okay there because I'm so familiar with the building and where I need to be and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't bother me.
Are you guys going?
In general, I'm not all about that crowd life,
Okay.
Plus, when you come in with like press pass or whatever, you can kind of avoid a lot of it, right? You can come in the press entrance. You can, a lot of times you're staying late or you're up. I like to go up to the hockey press box
Oh yeah, that's where they put everybody during the Rona, right?
Yeah. Well, also I think
I remember watching games from up there.
Yeah, me and Matty D, who we're going to talk to later, usually hang out up there. I think they're sending all press up there because I think there's going to be too many scouts in the normal press area tonight, and us locals that we get the boot for the scouts.
The local yokels.
Yeah, every once in a while they get a ton of NBA scouts in there.
Yeah, should be a good one.
I'm excited for it. We'll
go back to back too, because then we've got to see what's happening in Bloomington tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
We've got Dom Amore at 8:45. He is from the Hartford Courant. We're going to talk about UConn.
Sounds like a very lovely name, doesn't it?
Dom Amore.
Yeah.
Then we're going to talk to our guy Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review at 9. Coming up at 8, though, I kind of mentioned this earlier, and so did DB. So at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk to John Kinney. He's a lawyer, and the reason we're talking to legal counsel on the show this morning is because Nebraska finds itself in the middle of a lawsuit that was brought by former women's basketball player Ashley Scoggin, and basically she's accusing former Husker assistant Chuck Love of, and I'm using this quote from the World Herald, so their words, not mine.
Okay, let me just say something before you get going.
Yeah.
Because I know you love prep and you're going to be good at what you do. Do you feel as though we have to make disclaimers throughout this whole deal? Like, because I don't like doing that, but I also not sure I always trust people's hearing, right? Like, so we understand that we're talking about allegations.
Yeah, alleged.
We're not saying we believe in this or we believe that. We are discussing allegations.
Yeah, I think we give the one disclaimer at the top and then kind of everything.
Is this one of those where we have to do like television shows or radio where the opinions expressed by the following? Or like, do we
I mean, it's an opinion,
because it's hard for people to sometimes hear versus listen, especially when they're passionate about a topic.
It's an opinion show, right? So I think that should go without saying, but obviously we're not lawyers. I'll just do it now. DB and I, not lawyers. I did take the LSAT, but I decided law school was not for me. Not lawyers. We don't have the facts necessarily. We just have what's available publicly. Right. So we're commenting on what's available publicly to the best of our knowledge. But
I figured the best way to do this morning.
Yeah.
With real legal counsel that is very experienced. He knows the other side of the legal counsel very well. John is very accomplished in Omaha. He's also a sports fan. But I just want to talk about. I almost want to say the facts, but there aren't really a ton of
because it's all allegations.
It's all allegations, but the legal ramifications.
Right.
So we can just educate. You can do with the information what you will.
Like one of the questions.
This goal is in general of how to handle a complaint.
Both, to be honest, because so this is what Scoggin is claiming happened, that Chuck Love used his position of influence with head coach Amy Williams to groom Scoggins into a sexual relationship. That's basically word for word from the complaint. The lawsuit also.
Did you sift through all 26 pages? 27?
Not all of it, but
the factual data.
A decent chunk.
It's a lot.
The lawsuit also claims or alleges that Amy Williams and athletic director Trev Alberts failed to ensure the coaching staff maintained appropriate boundaries with student athletes, and she's accusing them of violating her rights. So here's where one of my main questions is about this topic is, what is Nebraska's responsibility as an institution to maintain those appropriate boundaries, as she says? Because I don't know. I genuinely don't. Because there's some words used in here, like grooming, that we don't typically hear between two adults. Right? Usually that's a term used when one of the parties is a minor. And so in this situation, I don't even totally know what that means.
Except for, and this was just on my TikTok yesterday and last night, Shane. you are hearing it a lot with WWE and Vince McMahon and Brock Lesnar right now.
Okay, sure, fair.
Because they've scrubbed him they've scrubbed Brock Lesnar from the open. Like he used to be in this montage, and I think they're low key, kind of not even low key. They're phasing him out. But among those allegations, they used the word grooming. I saved it. I don't know if I sent it to you. I put it in my drafts. But it was just funny because not hee ha ha, but ironic. Because, and you know how they do, I think it's an AI voice that generally does TikTok. Because the guy always sounds the same. You know, and there was snippets from the lawsuit, but the word grooming was used like 6 times.
So, and that's one.
And she is an adult. I think grooming, and we could ask John from like a legal standpoint,
right?
And this is interesting.
And I don't even know if grooming is a legal term.
Well, so this is interesting though, because remember I was joking about the aggressive email that the district sent, like, "Hey, you're not going to be allowed to come on campus if you don't take the Title IX test." And I was giving our athletic director a hard time. I was like, "It's like TK." I was like, "Why are you so aggressive with the ABC building? Like, I'm going to take the there were like 4 of the coaches that had to take the Title IX exam before, because you have to research, you have to do it every year.
Before you can hop back on.
In the building. And so I just did this last Tuesday, and that's one of there were 6 terms. Grooming was one of them.
Right.
So it doesn't.
But you're working with high school kids, so like in my brain.
Yeah, and I understand
that makes more sense.
But and again, it'd be a question for John. To the best of my knowledge, it's not age specific. It's a position
dynamic.
Of power, and that dynamic,
which that would absolutely apply here, right? If the
but again, I'm not a lawyer,
and so that's the other part that's kind of interesting about this is you do have a power dynamic difference between an assistant coach and a player, but they are both of age, so that's where things get sort of messy for me in terms of understanding what the legal consequences are. And again, this is a civil suit, not a criminal.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I mean, it's just tricky, right? This for me, this situation was kind of old. Obviously, we've traveled with the Loves.
Well, it's a couple years ago, right? I mean,
and we're kind of privy. Knew a lot of the ladies on the basketball team. And I'm not going to be one of these guys. Now, there are some people here in the state that will revel in this, and have what appears to be clearly taken sides. And I think their judgment is clouded. So don't believe everything you hear, but I do think it is important to just educate, so you can
sift through some of the noise.
It's my nature, right? And which is why I like working with you, because I think you believe the same thing. You can have opinions, but you don't get a separate set of facts.
No, right, 100%.
Right. So I just think if we approach it from a legal standpoint, and then it's up to you, the individual, to do with it what you will.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we're in the solutions business. Not just going to complain and chase ambulances to complain and chase ambulances.
Yeah.
Going to try to figure out how to get better.
Yeah, and I don't have any interest in like sensationalizing this, or obviously it is a scandal kind of its own accord, if you want to use that word. But so we'll talk more about this probably before we talk to John at 8, and obviously with John Kinney at 8 o'clock as well. We will get to more of Creighton and UConn, as well as a bunch of other stuff on our minds here this morning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha.
Welcome.
ESPN Tri-Cities.
I can't even hear myself. That's probably good.
I can hear you now. We are live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
ESPN Tri-Cities.
As well. Yeah, we love the Tri-Cities.
I think my man, Doug Duda, what do you think he's doing? Probably having his first cup of coffee? Maybe his third cup of coffee?
I'll say, I think he's probably further than two
as we're going to probably lead into the Doug and Daddy show.
Yeah, we do. We lead in every day to Doug and Daddy on ESPN Tri-Cities. We're big fans.
He's everywhere. I remember Westside played out in Kearney. I can't remember when it was, but you know, I try not to be on my phone during games and stuff, and I got this text, and it's from Doug, and I was like, it's crowded in there because they have an amazing facility. I don't know, you probably haven't been to Kearney's high school.
I think I have. It's been a minute, but
it's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm like, where are you? It's crowded in here. He was the first one to congratulate me coming back to the air, and I was like, how do you know?
Listen, he's got his ears everywhere. You gotta watch out.
Legend.
Want to remind you that Omaha men's basketball coming up on Thursday,
big one,
the 22nd, just a couple days from now. It's your last chance.
Senior night.
It's your last chance to see your Omaha men's basketball team in or at home this year. We just talked to Frankie Fiddler yesterday. We've got senior night against Oral Roberts on February 22nd. Go to omavs.com/ticks to get your tickets or call 402-554-MAVS to get your tickets. Let's pack the Baxter. You got to go see Frankie Fiddler get some buckets one more time before the year's over.
And I said this off the cuff yesterday, and I may have been incorrect.
What's that?
I said, get them all. They're all above you in the standings. Oral Roberts is a game behind.
In the neighborhood. They're in the same pack.
Who are the people in your neighborhood?
What is that from?
Your neighborhood.
Is that like a Sesame Street deal?
I think so.
Okay.
But I get Shane. I'm only don't get mad. I'm only asking Shane because he's old.
Okay.
I can't remember if Electric Company and Sesame Street were two different things.
Yeah, they were.
Why do you know? Your mom told you?
No, I
1,
remember.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
They were different.
That's not
shows.
Sesame Street, right?
Those are different. Electric Company is a different deal. I watched a lot of PBS growing up.
Did you?
Yeah, we didn't have cable, so I was watching a lot of PBS. Yeah.
No, I'm with you.
There was a lot of educational television
I
for
think we
this
were the
guy.
last ones on our block to get cable.
Yeah. I didn't have – my parents didn't have –
And a microwave.
We had a microwave.
Now that I know for sure.
Yeah. We had a microwave. I know
Not that I was like frequenting people's houses. Hey, do you have a microwave?
Well, apparently you were hanging out with Coach Huffman's house all the time.
Dude, that was the spot. So our neighborhood was ultra competitive.
Yeah.
Like we had some fellas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like we were constantly playing. I didn't start winning anything competitively as a kid until because everybody was better. It's like I'm the young guy.
Were they like older?
Oh yeah, I would go to the the elementary school and play football, and I'd get my head beat in. Now they would let me play with them because everybody wanted the little fast black guy. But
well, sure.
We were like the Cosbys out there on 90th and Fort, way out west. No, but in all honesty, like I was the youngest.
So you got beat up on.
So I got my head beat in a ton.
That's all right.
But it's cool though. I remember like I don't know. I think that's where the real. Obviously, my dad was a little out there when it came to competing.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think that's where I learned to be competitive.
Kind of gotta be to end up in the positions he ended up in, right? Like
like I remember he would tell me stories how he used to walk to practice sometimes because it wasn't always copacetic at the house, and I knew he lived by the airport, kind of over off of Sherman, and I'm like, you're walking to high. So, when I was in my fields a couple times in the last 5-6 years, like I would just go drive the old neighborhoods, and his childhood home doesn't even exist anymore. And I would just go drive, and I'm like, he walked like this dude really wanted to wrestle and play baseball.
Yeah,
right? Like, but it was cool because we were at North on Monday last week or Tuesday, and I showed his grandkids he's got his wrestling picture on the wall. And then we were at Central on Friday, and he's got a big mural out there too. And in my head, I was like, see, that's why your dad's so screwed up. He couldn't live up to the pressure. No. I thought it. I didn't say it.
That's probably for the best.
But it is pressure.
No, it is.
And my superintendent from District 66, he's like, man, DB, you're like the mayor around here. And I kind of felt bad because obviously my heart is with the district, but there are so many long-standing relationships. So I'm gonna have to go make dinner for Dr. Lucas.
Listen, that's all right. Education's a collaborative effort, right? Even outside of districts, you gotta come together a little bit.
All for one for all when it comes to public education.
Exactly. Here for public education, here for the kids, trying to.
I love public schools. Stop.
You used to do those commercials, didn't you?
Yeah, that's my jam.
Yeah. So I'm not hating.
Kinda.
I'm a public school kid. It's different district.
Yeah, Mr. Miller North.
That's a public school. Last I checked.
Yeah, rumor has it you lost your quarterback. Are you still stoked?
I'm fine.
You're gonna be on that bandwagon.
What the Burrell
I
bandwagon?
am Ravi for Millard North. I love their admin. Plus, my daughter went there, so I'm cool with Millard North. I love Behringer. It's fine.
Oh, Behringer's my dude. We love Behringer.
He's a good. This will be a very fun year.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Millard South is the consensus odds-on.
They're
favorite.
pretty loaded up.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
We'll see what happens.
It's whatever is fine. Like I'm one of the few, and I've said this from the jump. I'm one of the few people. I don't have a problem with that staff. I mean, everybody else can have their opinion. They're good to me, at least to my face. I don't have any. One of their coaches is my neighbor. It's fine. And you know what? Like I said last year, I would tell JP they've leaned all the way into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's whatever. But I'll be curious to see. Like they're loaded.
Yeah, they got a bunch of dudes
from top to bottom. So we'll see if it's as simply as easy as having good players, like I heard about for 3 years.
Well, and
because it's way more than that, but like you still gotta. It's gonna be a fun year.
No, yeah, it's about way more than just having good players, right? We saw that with Bellevue West last year. Like they had their bumps.
Or the year before.
They had a lot of really good players, and they had some lumps over the last couple of years. So it's not just about that, right? If you can figure the other stuff out and you got the good players, then yeah, you're in really good shape. But
it's gonna be fun.
Figuring the other stuff out's arguably harder than.
But you rather have good players.
Well, two, yes, also, right?
Yeah,
it is. You'd like to have the good players as well, right?
And he's a Lexington guy, so shout out to the 308.
But you kind of are seeing this down in Lincoln too. Like Coach Rule's trying to get all the other stuff right, and then he's also like, okay, now let's go get some good players.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you don't get the other stuff right too, the good players don't make a hill of beans difference.
Yeah, he says I'm not gonna put him out there, but you're spot on. Spot on. It's not just about having. Now the Jimmies and the Joes clearly.
No, they help a lot.
Clearly,
they help
matter.
a lot.
But he was 100%. He, meaning Coach Rule, was 100% set on setting the culture.
Yeah, you have to.
And I think the cool thing about Coach Rule is his contingency plans are something else.
Like in what sense?
So, hypothetically,
sure.
Hypothetically speaking, if you have a coach or coaches that may be highly sought after or coveted, or you catch wind that they may be on the move,
like a Tony White, for example,
or a Philip Simpson, or whomever, right? His ability to pivot, because he likes guys ready and already warmed up in the bullpen, is a definite skill.
Oh yeah,
it's not.
Well,
because in the meantime he's still building too, right? So he's very constantly processing.
See, to me, all that is about having preparation, like being prepared.
He's an extremely bright individual.
Because if you're prepared, then these situations don't catch you off guard.
I don't know if he plays cards. I should ask him.
Like a poker player?
But I would be curious.
You probably don't want to play cards against him.
I just watch it first to see if I can learn something and see his discernment. But I would imagine he's a good card player.
We'll wrap up hour number 1 coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Brought to you by our friends at the Warhorse Sportsbook. You can place your bets in person at Warhorse Sportsbook in Lincoln or Omaha. That Omaha locations at Horseman's Park, 6303 Q Street. You can place bets on nearly every major sporting event, pro and college football, basketball, baseball, golf, MMA, soccer, whatever you can think of. They got the fix for you. Straight bets, parlays, props, live in-game bets, which are my personal favorites. I enjoy a nice little live in-game bet. I think you get better value sometimes.
Okay,
you know,
you and Aaron.
You never know.
I almost always say his last name. I'm just gonna say Degenerate Aaron.
Yeah, you call him Degenerate Aaron.
Well, that's what he is in my phone.
But you can go to Warhorse Sportsbook, Lincoln or Omaha, to place those bets. The best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. If you have any questions about details, anything like that, thank you.
You should do television because prompters suck.
Yeah, I've never done a proper like teleprompter where it, feeds up.
Don't. What I would tell you is I would, get some, experience together and just send it to the studio and say, hey, listen, all these excerpts that you're hearing, these examples, I'm not reading a teleprompter, so don't ask me to read a teleprompter because it's not going to be good. I will be Damon Ron Burgundy.
I am Ron Burgundy.
So instead,
I am Damon Benning.
You just have to be able to take to like ascertain like 3 or 4 pages of information and memorize it. Like if that's easier than reading a teleprompter, then do that. Because for me, it's easier.
It probably would be. The idea of the teleprompter kind of gives me anxiety because it's always like moving up on me.
Dude, I watched Severe do Big Red Wrap Up,
Mhm.
and it gives me a headache.
Oh yeah,
It's unbelievable.
I think I would just memorize the script.
Dude, yeah. I'm mesmerized. I was like, how? I can't even do a 10-minute segment on Channel 7. Dead serious. Couldn't pull it off. We have some things. So, of course, my man T-Mac bails me out. And it's not because it's a black thing. He said
It might be. We don't know.
Terrence could be white.
Could he? You ever met a
Stop?
You ever met a white Terrence?
Stop.
I'm just asking. It's a question.
Stop.
If you have or not. You probably
No.
haven't met a lot of like white Ravis either, to be fair.
Terrence Stamp.
I don't know who that is.
He played as General Zod in Superman 2.
Okay. All right. We only had to go back 45 years.
No, it is.
Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Shay, that is fantastic. He said the counting song was Sesame Street, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
5,
he did.
6.
He did. He said that's the Sesame Street.
But here's the other.
But Electric Company is a different thing.
Okay.
I'm just saying it is.
Dude, you just totally wriggled off the hook.
What I do?
Seriously. No, I can't.
I don't even know what you were trying to get to there.
I was trying to get to something. Oh, so Hot Danger.
Yes. Yeah.
Should I be concerned that very few people use their real name?
That's the internet for you.
I know.
In general.
But sometimes I feel like it's like, are you a real person?
I mean, real.
No, but he was going back to our Coach Rule example. He
Yeah.
was talking about like having
your tight end coach,
like ready to go after
Yeah.
the arrest, which came about like almost like a thief in the night.
Mhm.
Like it happened kind of like bang bang. We're like, oh, didn't hear about this. Oh, it happened. Oh, he's gone. Oh, we have a new guy.
Yeah, it was the least newsworthy. Not that it's not newsworthy, but it was the least splashy leaving of a coach at that time period as it could possibly be.
And in some weird sort of way, it allowed them to get a couple of more players.
How so?
I think I can say this.
Well, you already started, so might as well.
So there were some recruiting things that were happening early or not happening early with some in-state guys.
Okay.
And then kind of the change and the new vision at that position
Okay.
allowed them to close in on a couple of guys.
Mm.
Like hypothetically,
Yeah.
let's say that played to, let's say, Angerson's strengths.
Okay.
Right? Like not having that guy be your recruiter versus another guy
Sure.
maybe mattered.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically.
I just
speaking.
use Ingerson because he's a neighbor. Not
Hypothetically.
because
Not because it's a really exact specific situation.
Yeah, not at all. It's not. It's just it's a hypothetical deal. But see, so what I was going to kind of say with the springing up and the planning is did you find the timing odd yesterday of the lawsuit? Not that it was 2 years removed, because I'm going to ask, I think, I don't know how I want to phrase it, but I'm like, is that normal? Are you collecting data? Were you expecting something to happen and then it didn't happen? So you're forced to do this? Like, does the 2-year window seem right?
Yeah, I guess I don't.
But
really
then
know.
Nebraska really didn't find out about it until yesterday morning when everybody else did.
Yeah, so I mean, they filed Sunday, is what the article in the World Herald said. So I imagine,
and I had forgotten so much of what was going on.
I did too until I went back
because
and
I was unusually close to it. I think real time. We had just had Coach Love on the radio.
Yeah.
Right. and our kids played together. So it was just like, well, this is interesting.
Yeah.
So then it's like you probe. Amy was my neighbor in college. We have a tremendous working relationship. So there's a lot of things that are close to home. So I always wanted, I thought in this time it was interesting that did bad news really not beat you home this time? Like, did Nebraska really? And I believe they did. I believe that they did just catch wind of it.
Yeah, they probably had to know something like this was coming, though, right?
No, that's interesting because here's why I would say no.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that yes or no, they didn't, but a reason if you're looking at it is you feel like there's no way you believe what you're getting ready to allege. You are grasping at straws. So sometimes you think in your head, well, they're not going to put that out there. There's no way they can win.
Well, and that's where civil suits get a little tricky, right? Because in a criminal case, if they had, let's say, this level of evidence, it probably doesn't go anywhere. And maybe that's part of the reason for the 2-year delay. So maybe they were exploring other options. I don't know. We could ask John about that. But
now I have one. Okay, I'm with you. I have won a criminal case.
Sure.
Thrown out.
Yeah.
And lost the civil suit.
Yeah, which is not terribly uncommon.
Yeah. And I remember once the judge ruled, now I was 23, maybe 2. I have to ask the lawyer that was just on TV about the North Omaha Business Project because he was my guy at the time.
Yeah.
I do remember walking out of the courtroom and he said, be prepared for a civil suit.
And a lot of times, and I don't know if this is the case here or not, but
I mean, it was just violence. Like,
yeah.
And I don't mean just to downplay it, but
a fairly straightforward.
Yeah. I didn't understand the difference between, endangerment and probable cause to punch a guy.
Sure.
Multiple times versus civilly why I was responsible for
damages.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like that didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Right.
But like I said, I'm young and dumb. So it's just like.
Whereas that's where I wonder, TK, who I believe is in law school.
My man TK is like, he's trying to get Micah to go to law school. I can't afford law school.
He says a couple things that are interesting here. The standard of proof for civil cases is much lower than it is in criminal cases, which I knew.
So it seems contrary to popular. It seems contrary, like a contradiction, because it's harder to prove feelings.
It is, but it's also then
and civil suits are about feelings.
It's also then harder to disprove feelings. Like I think it's easier to prove damage was done than it is to prove that someone has committed a crime. Right?
Understood.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't. Again, like most things, it's above my pay grade.
He also says the 2-year time period may be a statute of limitations thing.
I don't. Okay, I'll entertain that. I don't think so.
That's fair. I don't know. He's just tossed it out as a possibility. And I don't. A lot of times in situations that have a sexual component, or in a power dynamic like we're talking about here, a lot of times there is a gap because the person making the allegations, in this case Scoggin, isn't emotionally in a place where they want to talk about it until they're a little bit removed from the situation.
So that a part of that was in the report too, right?
Yeah.
Where if you believe the allegations and they're in a situation of he said, she said, why didn't she just say? I mean, it was intimated in
that there's either a pressure or
it just didn't feel comfortable,
which is pretty common in these situations.
100%.
So that might explain
where you maybe don't want to get into victim blaming.
Yeah, and that might just be the 2 years right there. Just that explanation.
I did think it was interesting where if your teammates are conspiring to like have this this operation, are they riding with the coach? Are they anti you, or do they think like? I was surprised at the team stance.
Yeah, like what was their?
Because usually the peers let you know.
you would think. Coming up next, we're going to talk to John Kinney. He's a lawyer. He's going to help shed some light for us on some of these questions that we have about the Nebraska lawsuit here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And I want to remind you that using your seatbelt saves lives and prevents injuries only if it is properly worn. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline is John Kinney. He is a lawyer here in Omaha. John, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
I got to figure it out because as sharp as you are, so did you concede the Mason Kinney, or like how did that come around? Like, I'm a guy whose name doesn't have to come first. I imagine you're in the same vein.
You put me on the spot.
No, I'm
right
totally
away.
I'm totally kidding. Like, it's funny because I remember you always would like coach me through my ego. So it was just like, isn't that funny? Like the mentor mentee, man. Good to talk to you. How you been?
I'm doing great. And Jill is smarter and prettier than me. So her name should come first, but it doesn't.
But you wear the sharp specs, John. I mean, you look so distinguished.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Good morning, man. I haven't changed a bit.
Not at all.
So this one is interesting, right? And it's kind of cool because you're really good at what you do, obviously. But there's a sports component to you. Obviously, you stay kind of up on things. Did you anticipate, or could you have seen these two worlds colliding when you're kind of reading through this case?
Absolutely. This is a case with a lot of bells and whistles. It has a lot of context and details to it that are really, really interesting. And I think this is one of those things that is going to come down to depositions and witnesses and the nuance of the facts. And that's what's great about the law. So yeah, no, this is a very interesting case.
John, I think one of the things that makes it most interesting, at least from my standpoint and kind of understanding of what I've read so far, is obviously the term grooming was used here, which you typically hear when a minor's involved, but because of the power dynamics between a player and coach, you almost have sort of a minor type of relationship, even though they're both adults. How does that kind of play into this whole situation? And how do you, I guess, prove something like that in a civil case?
Well, when I look at a lawsuit, I like to change the facts a little bit to sort of play with the ideas that are in the case. And so if you just change the facts a little bit of this case and say that, Ashley Scoggin is 15. Whoa, that changes everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what's happening here. So let's say she's 17 or 18. Does that change how people feel or how people think about it? And if you read the online comments, there's a lot of folks out there saying, hey, she was an adult and she could, make decisions on her own. And I don't know. When you think about a 22 or 23-year-old person, they're not exactly mature, and the power dynamics definitely had to play a part here. So I think that grooming is a word that we've all gotten very used to, and it immediately sends us to the Sandusky case and things like that. Now those victims were obviously much younger, but there is something to be said for the power dynamic of somebody who can manage your playing time, who can, as they said in the lawsuit, make or break you. So I think that's a big component of this.
John, are we essentially looking at what would amount to a workplace sexual harassment complaint? Is that kind of like nuts and bolts sort of what this ends up being?
Yeah, so when you look at a case like this, there's just a huge body of law from the employment context where a manager or a supervisor has a role in promoting or making big career decisions for an employee sort of underneath their management. And you can use the facts of those cases and the law that's developed in those cases to sort of create a template for this case. And there is, if you look at this case, there's allegations of retaliation. There are going to be controversies over actual knowledge and, when somebody knew something and how they knew it. And it'll be so interesting to see, these other student athletes, what did they say to what coaches, and how are they going to prove that there was actual knowledge of this relationship? But you can just see in the phrasing of the lawsuit that it's clearly hearkening back to all of the jurisprudence from these sexual harassment cases that occur in the workplace.
So, John, as you're kind of reading through this, and you're super smart, you win way more than you lose. I got the sense that the picture is being painted more about the environment than the details. Is that a more sympathetic play when you're going to go for something civil, is how something made someone feel versus what may or may not have actually happened?
Well, that can kind of be more of a damages issue. And so it's sort of like the humiliation and the pain and suffering is part of the damages claim. But when I read the lawsuit, I think the boring part of the lawsuit is really interesting. The part of the lawsuit that says there weren't policies that were appropriately developed, there wasn't any mechanism.
Well, okay, so did they have to be divulged? Because that would be something that's easy for the university to dispel, because there would probably be handbooks. There are things that people sign when you take on scholarships. Like, what if that was in writing later on, though, JK?
So Title IX requires schools to adopt and publish grievance procedures, and that's mentioned in the lawsuit. And those grievance procedures, according to the lawsuit, were not well developed. And according to the lawsuit, again, these are just allegations, the university did not promulgate specific enough policies for a student athlete who felt like they were being sexually harassed or even, sexually assaulted. The mechanisms were not in place. You can just see in the lawsuit that just beyond the allegations related to the coach student athlete relationship, there's a lot of time, a lot of ink spilled on the issue of these policies and procedures not being developed. And then you get into, once the assault, or not the assault, but the harassment is sort of disclosed, then there's, again, harkening back to these sexual harassment cases, there's this reference to, retaliation and not creating dismissing her from the team. Is that an appropriate response? And dismissing her immediately, is that an appropriate response? And I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I do think that there is a lot of grist for the mill. There's a lot of information in this lawsuit that's not the sexy part of it, that's not the titillating part of it, that's really going to be the interesting part of the case.
So, John, if you're talking about depositions, obviously the team could play a pivotal role, right? So as I'm reading through, and I didn't get through all 20 some odd pages, but the factual content where you talk about, hey, a player meeting, or the players devised a ruse to get a key, something like that. And I don't want to get into the sensationalism of it more than I want to say, apparently it comes across as though the team had picked sides of culpability, right? You're not trying to necessarily, it doesn't read as though you're out to get the coach. It reads as though there was an effort to pin the player. Do you read into that at all potentially as legal counsel when depositions loom? Like, why does it seem like them against you?
Well, definitely as a lawyer, you look at it and say, wow, all these witnesses are going to be lined up against my plaintiff, because
right.
It sounds like people did pick sides. And, it's hard to find.
It reads that way.
It reads that way, but that's the great thing about the law. We're going to, depositions are going to get taken, and people are going to, a case can turn on a few phrases uttered in a deposition. And there may be folks out there that are supportive of Ashley Scoggin that we just haven't heard from yet. It does seem to be, and I kind of thought of the movie Mean Girls, and that's not appropriate, but it made me think it's like a group of girls got together and decided that Ashley Scoggin was to blame for this in some way, and it kind of struck me as kind of a, I don't know, group mentality that maybe kind of went awry, and maybe in hindsight, people might look at it and think differently about how they behaved and the way they approached it. But she was definitely getting blamed for this relationship, and probably had more to do with, the violation of team chemistry and, hey, we're a team and we want to win, and this is taking us away from winning, which I think, when you're in that super, super competitive environment, that probably takes over. And then maybe as time goes on, you look back and reflect on it and say, well, yeah, maybe we were prioritizing a few of the wrong things here.
We're talking with John Kinney, a lawyer and partner at Kinney Mason Law Firm here in Omaha. John, one of the things that really jumped out to me, and you mentioned this in your response to DB here, was the difference in the way Chuck Love was handled versus the way Ashley Scoggin was handled. Obviously, she was kicked off the team pretty much immediately, where Chuck Love was suspended with pay until he ultimately resigned later on. How big of a role in this civil case do you think that's going to end up playing? Because that's the thing that really perked my ears up, was how those two situations were handled differently.
Well, one of the things that's interesting about that whole scenario is there's hardly any gap in time between when there was a discovery of this relationship and Ashley Scoggin being released from the team. And you would think that there would be a few days of at least an investigation. There would be some sort of an effort to interview all the team members separately, it seems like that there was such a rush, and I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of the facts that are developed about this hours-long team meeting and people screaming at each other. I'm not sure that that's going to, actually come out to be completely accurate. But the timing just doesn't make a lot of sense for an organization and for a team and the leadership that is supposed to have these grievance procedures for these decisions to be made so rapidly. It's not adding up. And again, by the time you get to developing the factual record, it may be that there are a lot of procedures that were undertaken to investigate this, but the time frame between discovery and dismissals and big decisions, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of time for quiet reflection. It seems like there was a lot of heat and very little light on that.
And I understand, John, that these are just allegations, but I think the main point in wanting to talk to you is just to talk about kind of the legal ramifications, not necessarily forming opinions. So as I'm kind of looking at this, if in fact you're accurate in terms of how you would look at this, the timeline, the immediacy of playing versus not playing versus Coach Love's suspension with pay, would you look at, and I know you're human, but you do know the law, but would at first blush, would you think, is this contractual that they can't get rid of him immediately? Do we not think he didn't do anything wrong necessarily because we can't get rid of him immediately? Or is it because the policies are in place via Title IX that in accordance that we can't get rid of him immediately? Do you look at why there was the delay as you're looking at the allegations presented to you?
I don't really think that is a notable element to this. I look much more towards the plaintiff and Ashley Scoggin and what happened to her, how they handled, Chuck Love. you can criticize it in hindsight and say, geez, the guy got paid through May and got to finish the semester, getting paid and whatnot. But in the grand scheme, I just don't think there's, a lot there on that.
I just wonder if that was upsetting to Scoggins' side, where, wait a minute, you handled me like this, but he got to do this. Do you know what I mean? I'm just looking for the catalyst.
Yeah, I think it's more of an issue for talk radio and chat rooms from a legal perspective.
I like that.
It doesn't really resonate. But I think I understand why people would talk about the differences, because there's already this super big power imbalance that's being discussed in the lawsuit itself. And then together with that power imbalance, all of a sudden you see two people being treated, potentially differently, and it piques everybody's interest. But from the legal perspective, I hardly think it matters.
Whoa. So that's why we're talking, see, because I think that's huge, right? Because what you preface it by saying, I think that's more for talk radio and chat rooms. So even as somebody that's really good, amongst the tops in your profession, you think the differences in the way that the two people were handled is not very relevant as it pertains to the facts?
Well, the guy got suspended.
That's interesting.
And he no longer got to participate as a coach of the team. And that happened immediately. The only thing that seems to be chapping everybody is the fact that he got paid for the next 3 or 4 months. I just don't. I'm not. They both got kicked off. And so I don't. I don't really.
So you don't make a huge difference between dismissed and suspended. That's what this comes down to, right?
I like the objectivity, because it would be easy from a legal standpoint to pick a side, but you're just being global and
I
saying
think it's an emotional issue.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So legally, the difference between being suspended and eventually resigning versus being immediately kicked off the team, not significant. That's basically
not significant with respect to the overall lawsuit
handling of the
trying to prove the elements of your claim.
Sure.
In other words, if you're Ashley Scoggins' lawyer, you don't spend a lot of time thinking about how they handled Chuck Love. I mean, you maybe bring it up in a closing argument, or you try to tell some fact finder that it seemed patently unfair. But in terms of proving the elements of your claim, I just don't see it being one of those things that is part of the elements of what you're trying to do with these constitutional claims, these 1983 actions, the Title IX claim. It's not. It's interesting, but I wouldn't focus on it.
It's clear that Title IX has taken on a different role, a different meaning, different depth than I think its original intent. And it is very, I mean, you have to really be well versed as it's kind of morphed through the decades. Do you see why maybe there was a 2-year gap? Do you look at why there was a 2-year gap? Is it due diligence? Is it things change? What if you were going to take this case, would you ask that question?
Well, the problem with any gap between the events and when you eventually file a lawsuit is that your lawsuit is going to create its own gaps, and lawsuits take years to resolve. And so people's memories fade, evidence disappears, people die, people move, and so you want to try to bring a claim as quickly as you can. But I think in this case, you're talking about a case that could have a huge psychological impact on a still a very young lady, and the amount of heat and victim blaming and the kind of pressure. I think somebody has to really, really think hard about that before they bite that off. And it's not something that you do without a lot of careful planning and thinking about what's going to happen to your life. And so I think that's probably more of an explanation for the delay than anything else.
John, I had one thing that you brought up a couple times, the the Title IX requirements in terms of having paths forward to have policies for these complaints and how to deal with these. But one of the things that the suit alleges is that Amy Williams and athletic director Trev Alberts failed to ensure the coaching staff maintained appropriate boundaries with student athletes. What is the university's role there? Does that fall under Title IX compliance as well? Or that's the part that I wasn't totally sure what is the university's actual responsibility there?
Yeah, the Title IX requires every school to have and make known procedures for students to file complaints of sex discrimination. And as part of that, you have a duty to inform student athletes of their rights and really educate them on what avenues that are available to them should they be subjected. I mean, in a lot of cases that you read, it's student on student sexual harassment, or a lot of the cases outside of the Title IX context can involve the workplace, but you also have teacher on student harassment. The coach element and the athletic element to this is you don't find that a lot in the context of sort of a management down sort of a lawsuit. So I think this is just it's very interesting, that part of the claim, that there's been a sort of a systemic failure to educate student athletes on what to do about sex discrimination. And honestly, my guess is that there was probably a huge focus on student versus student sexual harassment, because that's 95% of probably the likelihood of any problems. And so the fact is you sort of focus so much on that you might miss this element of the grooming and the power imbalance and the things that can happen with a coach student athlete type of case. And so maybe that was just a hole in the thinking or the procedures, and that might explain why this particular case has some unique elements to it where the university just didn't see this coming.
Fantastic.
Great
John,
stuff, John. We appreciate your time. That's John Kinney from Kinney Mason Law Firm here in Omaha. John, thanks so much for joining us and help us get a little smarter this morning.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, John.
That's John Kinney, lawyer here in Omaha. Really good stuff. Really interesting perspective on some of those things as well. Coming up next, we will hop back into a little bit of Creighton and UConn talk tonight and maybe wrap up some additional thoughts that DB and I have from that conversation with John here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back.
And the big man delivers. Newton sprints to the front court, pitches it over to Diarra. Diarra holds, gets back to Newton. Baby, let's go.
I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun. I hope we have a bunch of students. I hope we have a bunch of students, and
we will be back.
They let the guard down and have a lot of fun. We have to make this as difficult a place to play as there is in the conference. And UConn, they call out a lot of their set plays, and it'd be nice if the guys on the floor couldn't hear him when he was trying to call them out because it was too loud in this place. So. Call them out because it was too loud in this place. So.
We will be back.
Call them out because it was too loud in this place. Out of this place.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We are halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. And we just had a great conversation with John Kinney from Kinney Mason Law Firm here in Omaha. Some really interesting stuff. But you've been working the phone machine over there.
Well,
as well.
I just have I got a lot of my good buddies are lawyers. So I'm always kind of paying attention, and they're different kinds of lawyers.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Like, Adam handles most of the contracts, and good friend John is obviously, civil and divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that aspect. My man, I won't say his name out loud, but so I've got another one of my buddies. He's looked out for me forever, and he said, the operative word in how they were treated, because that caught you off guard. Mm-hmm. You said, "Oh my gosh, how they were treated," and I did like the fact that John was very, it's not balanced, but he gave both.
He was objective.
Yeah. Extremely. Because it would be easy to look at it and say, and I know he knows Ashley's lawyer very, very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
I know he knows Marin. So you could look at it and say, well, why would they handle this with a coach and not handle this with a player? And he's like, well, if that were me, I wouldn't even really look at it like that. That may come out in the damages portion, but when we're talking about the environment, which seems to be how it was handled, seems to be the center of this deal. Maybe that may not be what I would focus on if I were going to go try to win this case. And my buddy said, he goes, the operative word is could, because he said how they were treated could be very significant. But could is the operative word. He said, but the school will argue they were not similarly situated, which means you probably handle that differently.
Well, and here's the thing that,
and I could see that.
Here's the other thing that you have to remember with this, in the sense that while its closest corollary may be workplace sexual harassment between a subordinate and a manager or whoever, right? The fact is that student athletes are not actually viewed as employees.
I know.
Despite, a recent labor ruling that I can't remember what school it was. Dartmouth, yeah, that they were they are employees.
I wasn't even doing sports radio.
I know. And we talked about it briefly, at least. But I think that's really important here, because technically Chuck Love can sue for wrongful termination or things like that if he's not given his proper due process. Ashley Scoggin, well, obviously she can sue for other things. That's not one of them.
Yeah, and I remember real time doing this. And listen, obviously, pre-existing relationship with the Love family and some members of the basketball team and Coach Williams. So I was trying to be as objective as I could. But I felt like the difference that at that time, because I remember this kind of being a thing. Well, she was terminated, this, that, and the other. And I said, I think it's a contract thing.
And it very well might be.
I think it's much hard. I joke with one of our wrestling coaches that it's very difficult to fire teachers. Like just the parameters in order to get rid of a teacher is extremely difficult.
Contract,
short of a couple of two doozies.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very difficult and ardent process. And so it could have been something like that, but I don't know. I just think if you wait this amount of time, you have to figure out or figure in this could be a very hurtful process.
Oh, for sure.
So like you have to be willing to go there if you're Ashley. Like that takes some courage. Because it seems like as you're reading through the deal that the team clearly picked an allegiance.
Yeah, it seemed like it. Which
right?
is
if you believe the setup, the getting of the key. I still don't know what to do with the meeting.
The meeting is probably where I would guess a lot of this is going to hinge. John.
I don't know.
Well, I think John was talking about the depositions and stuff like that. I don't know if I think the meeting could be looked at as a microcosm of the environment that had been created.
So, okay, maybe. So, because like I look at like just if I was going to play devil's advocate on the other side, what if the team went to the staff and said, this is what we believe, this is what she says, so we tried to prove otherwise, and that was the Salem witch hunt.
Sure.
But in the deposition it reads, hey, we were both questioned on they were both questioned on their involvement. Like that's a play on words.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's a lot of what these civil cases
are.
Right?
It could have, or was it really, okay, hey, let's all go hash this out. Let's sit and talk. Okay, what's your side of it? What's your side of it? And everybody, because that would be egregious.
Yeah, it would be.
Right? So,
and depending on how whoever is able to show that narrative in court, whatever it is, which in that case, they're probably going to win. Who is ever able to best convince, because I think
it doesn't hinge on the meeting though. You're talking about the environment that was
the environment that led to the meeting.
I got you.
Right? Whoever's able to show their narrative most effectively is probably going to win. Now, I'd be shocked if there is not at least some damages paid out to Scott.
Me too.
Because of the fact that she did lose her housing as a result of being
100%.
kicked off the team.
100%.
She did lose access to certain things
100%.
as a result of being kicked off the team. That's where, if Nebraska made a misstep, assuming everything is true in the allegations,
Which I will not.
But that's all we have to go on right now.
Yeah. So even like, it's allegations, right?
Right.
Let's just say everything in there isn't true, or everything is true.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't change the fact that I still think she will get paid.
Yes. And the difference, I think, that's where I think, like John said, that's where I think the suspension versus being removed from the team matters. Because if they had suspended Scoggin through the end of the semester, she doesn't lose access to her housing. She doesn't lose access to the other things.
You said something that was interesting off air where you said, maybe what if it didn't get to Trev?
Yeah. Well, because you said you were surprised of possible missteps because of his background. And my thought was,
just with how he's handled everything else.
He's a really bright guy who doesn't seem to step in it often. And my thought was, okay, you're right. It doesn't really make sense with what we know about Trev to have made this type of misstep. And my thought was, okay, well, maybe the missteps were made before it got to Trev, right? Like maybe they were looking at this not from a...
But you do realize that could that could be exactly what Scoggins is alleging, that Title IX protocols.
But then you're looking at probably a more so a university and less Trev, right? Trev is named specifically.
Which I think is standard.
It is, right? You have to kind of like go up the food chain. So whether it's you go Coach Love, then Coach Williams, then Trev.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Ravi Lulla, Sasha Durkin, Chris Gorman.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
All the way to the top to Big Boss Bill, right?
Yes.
But the thing that's going to be interesting here is a lot of this, I think, is going to know on who knew what and when did they know.
Gosh, the depositions scare me.
Yeah. Well, especially again, like John said, 2 years removed.
And plus, like I just look at it like emotional. But I guess if you've talked to her and you're willing to go there, she feels good. Like, okay, like,
and that's maybe why it took the 2 years, is to be willing to go there.
I just don't want to see, you know what I mean? It's just, it's could be emotional.
I mean, it's going to get really messy for everybody involved. I mean, there's no way around that.
Yeah.
Right. I think one of the more interesting things about this case is going to be because I do think there were damages, right? That, like we mentioned, the loss of the housing, the loss of some of the access to what she had access to as a Nebraska.
Is there a value
athlete.
on being ostracized?
Emotionally, yeah. That's what a civil case, you mentioned civil cases focus on feelings more so than obviously criminal cases do. That is part of the damages. Being ostracized, being humiliated, being embarrassed, all of that goes into the damages phase, right?
Emotional distress.
Emotional distress is a real thing in civil cases. And so that's going to be certainly a part that plays a part. And I mean, all you have to prove is like, hey, I had to go to therapy, or look at this, my grades fell off, or what, like it's fairly easy to have a trail of the results of the emotional distress and being able to prove that.
Yeah.
Coming up next, we're going to switch gears and start looking into
hoops, baby.
Creighton, UConn, number 1 in town tonight in Omaha. Dom Amore from the Hartford Current coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back.
Front court right.
We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Front court right, going to try another three. No good, off the back rim right. Rebounded, Klingon crushes it. The ball came loose, and the big man delivered. Newton sprints to the front court, pitches it over to Diarra. Diarra holds, gives back to Newton. He'll try another three. Got it! Oh, back-to-back jacks by T. New. Oh, light it up, baby. Let's go.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Want to tell you real quick before we get to Dom here that you need to make sure you get over to supernovas.com to get tickets for the Omaha Supernovas next match. That's not till March 14th is their next home match. So you got a little time here. Got lots of time to buy tickets. I expect a nice big crowd. Let's break another record for pro volleyball here in Omaha. That is March 14th at 7 p.m. CHI Health Center. Schedule, tickets. You can get gear as well. Everything over at supernovas.com. Joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline from the Hartford Current, covering Connecticut sports, is Dom Amore. Dom, how are you this morning?
Good, Rob. How are you?
Good. Hey, good morning, Dom. You ready for this one?
Yeah, about as ready as I'm going to be.
So,
yeah, it should be a good one. I mean, both teams playing their best basketball right now, right? I mean, Creighton's on a roll, and UConn has been on a roll for a while, so it should be two hot, not only two really good teams, but two hot teams.
Dom, you mentioned UConn on a roll. Obviously, they've got the long winning streak, but they've also coming off of a dominant performance against Marquette. What have you seen from this team in this most recent stretch that's impressed you the most?
Well, the thing that really impresses you is that they seem to be able to win games any way that they need to win or any way that the other team forces them to play it. They've won some rock fights. They've won some with some beautiful basketball. They've won some slow tempo. They've won some up tempo. They've won with their big men having big games. They've won with their guards having big games. And, you know, they've won with depth and they've won without depth. So they've really been able to handle anything that's thrown at them and throw everything but the kitchen sink at their opponents. And it's very rare. I guess what all that amounts to is they're a very complete team. There isn't any one thing you could try to take away and necessarily expect to beat them with it.
Dom, it seems like for the last maybe week and a half, and this is preceding the big time matchup. On this show, we were making different cases for different players of the year, and obviously Tristan comes up a ton for his role in kind of being the catalyst for UConn. But do you look at that as a little bit of a wild card tonight, that so many different pieces play a role in UConn's success, that on the road in a game like this tonight, you may need a definitive, clear-cut path if it gets down to crunch time?
Well, I think if it does get down to crunch time, it's probably going to be Newton who's going to have the ball, and it's maybe a question as to whether he or Spencer shoots it.
I like that.
If it comes down, so if it comes down to that, you know, it's going to be in Newton's hands, and it couldn't be in better hands. I mean, he was the point guard on a national championship team, and he's been the point guard all the way through here. So, you know, you don't know what kind of stats he's going to have throughout the course of the game. They vary somewhat, although I think he's been the most consistently productive player that they've had. But, you know, if it comes down to crunch time, he's going to have the ball.
We're talking with Dom Amore of the Hartford Courant. Dom, I'm curious, you know, I had some questions about this UConn team coming into the season. Obviously, they lost some major contributors from last year's national championship team, but they actually look better, at least through this point of the season, than they did last year. I know they got on that really good roll late, but they've kind of looked from start to finish like a better version of last year's team. Did you see this coming with as much production as they lost last year?
Well, I didn't see them being better. I saw them being really good again. I saw them being in the hunt. I think part of that is I think maybe the Big East isn't quite at the level that it was last year when they lost 6 out of 8 conference games in January. It looked like it was heading that way when they lost at Seton Hall in their first conference game. But to your point, to lose 3 NBA players, 3 guys go to the NBA, and still be anywhere near as good, let alone better, at least record-wise, is a pretty remarkable achievement, and something that is yet a new feather in Dan Hurley's cap as far as what he's able to do to build a program, stacked recruiting classes on top of the other. You know, the players who came back got better. The freshmen that he's brought in have been useful. Certainly, Stefan Castle's been useful. He's been freshman of the week in the league, I think 7 out of the last 8. And Spencer is kind of the key. I mean, you didn't know what he was going to be like, but obviously he's a very, very well chosen transfer coming in from Rutgers. He's been really a big difference maker. So they were able to bring in the people to replace much of what they lost, and then the people that came back got better, and that made a difference. And you know, if Klingon didn't get hurt for a bit and Castle didn't get hurt for a bit, they might be undefeated. So that's how good they've been.
Dom, let me ask you something. Is there an advantage when you look at part 2 and how physically dominant UConn was in the old gym the first time around this year against Creighton versus part 2 and getting to make adjustments? do you give an advantage to one coach, Hurley or Coach Mack, in terms of based on what happened and the way the first game was played as having an advantage?
Well, I think what we've seen, over the last couple of years, I think any gap between those two has probably been closed. I mean, the way UConn's performed over the last, year or so and the adjustments that they've made and the way, Dan Hurley has prepared them, I don't think you can really put him at a disadvantage anymore against any coach, including Hall of Famers. But certainly he's had a lot of trouble beating, MAC teams in the past, and with good reason, because he's a heck of a coach. So I would say that, maybe if you asked me that question a year ago, I would say thered be an advantage for Creighton. And now I think any advantage that there might have been is probably closed up between those two. But to speak to your point, certainly Creighton's at home. Certainly they have last game to look at. Certainly they're playing better now. So I would expect UConn to have a tough time in this game. I mean, of the games that they have remaining, this is probably the game that they would have the best chance of losing, because I think this is probably the toughest team and the toughest situation that they're going to face. Obviously they have to go to Marquette again, but I think this is going to be a tough game for UConn. I would be very surprised if this game goes like the last Creighton game or like what we saw on Saturday.
Dom, as you obviously are very familiar with this UConn team, as you've seen Creighton and UConn match up before, is there anything you think Creighton has kind of at their disposal that would give UConn the most trouble tonight?
Well, I think the key for them, Kalkbrenner didn't play great last time. And it was Klingen's first game back, and he played very well. In a limited amount of time, he figures to play more minutes tonight. But I think the possibility that they could get both Klingen and Johnson in foul trouble would certainly be an issue. That they could get them both in foul trouble. If Kalkbrenner's not in foul trouble, then that would be obviously something that they could exploit. So I would imagine they would try to go at UConn early and try to get those big guys in foul trouble if they can. Last against Marquette, Klingen didn't have any fouls the whole game, 17-10 with no fouls, which is pretty amazing. But we also saw at St. John's at the Garden, he got into foul trouble, and so did Johnson, and UConn had to go with a very, very small lineup. So I think if they could somehow force UConn into a smaller lineup than they want to go with, then that would tilt the advantage to Creighton.
Dom, let me get you out on this topically with UConn and its evolution, especially with Ollie being the interim in Brooklyn now. What's enabled Hurley to get out of kind of the Calhoun? Listen, the easy answer is a national championship, but he kind of endeared himself to Calhoun early, something that it was tough transitioning from Calhoun. What's been then the secret sauce, do you think, for Hurley to establish his own independence as this being his program?
Well, I think when you replace a coach like Jim Calhoun, it's always better to be the guy that replaces the guy. History shows us that. My very first go around covering Major Beats with the Giants when Ray Handley was replacing Bill Parcells, and it was a lot easier for the guy that came after that. And I imagine it'll be a lot easier in New England for the guy that comes after Jared Mayo to replace Bill Belichick. I think part of it is that Kevin Ollie took over at a time when UConn was on top. And his job was to keep them on top. And he did a really good job of that for a couple of years. But when it fell off, it was on him. Dan Hurley came in, the program had 2 losing seasons. Things were going really downward. He was certainly helped by the move to the Big East. That made it a little bit easier, although they were on the right track before that. But I just think that there was a lot less pressure on him than there was going to be on whoever replaced Calhoun directly. And as you saw, even having that, normally winning a national championship would buy you a few years. but it just didn't buy $12 in years. Some of it was just, I don't want to, he wasn't a victim, some of it wasn't doing wrong. But I just think that that Dan Hurley came into a situation that was tailor-made for Dan Hurley. He likes to, he says, get under the hood and fix things, and that's what he had. And the fortunate thing was he wasn't getting under the hood of an old jalopy. He was getting under the hood of a Ferrari. The parts are harder to get, and it's a little more complicated, but it was right up his alley to fix that and get it humming again.
That's Dom Amore from the Hartford Courant. Dom, thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy the game tonight.
All right, you got it, man. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Dom.
We've got Matt DeMarinis coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
I hope we have a bunch of students, and they have a, because it was too loud in this place. Because it was too loud in this place. Because it was too loud. I hope we have a bunch of students, and I hope we have a bunch of students, and they have a, they let the guard down and have a lot of fun. We have to make this as difficult of a place to play as there is in the country. I hope we have a bunch of students, and they have a, they let the guard down and have a lot of fun. We have to make this. I could hear him when he was trying to call him out because it was too loud in this place.
We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I hope we have a bunch of students, and they have a, they let the guard down and have a lot of fun. We have to make this as difficult of a place to play as there is in the conference. And UConn, they call out a lot of their set plays, and it'd be nice if the guys on the floor could hear him when he was trying to call him out because it was too loud in this place.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on hour number 3.
It goes fast. You've been so mean to me this morning.
What?
It's just flown right by.
I'm never.
Well, I'm not even gonna get into the last break.
Well, listen. I don't know what to tell you there. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Tell on you.
You can. That's fine. Matty will probably take your side. We're live on.
Well, I may have to go to Matt. I think we may.
Listen, we can appeal to a judge here.
Maybe Team DeMarinis here.
We're on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-City, and now we're on KFOR in Lincoln as well. We're joined on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline by our friend Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Matty, what's going on, bud?
DB, Ravi just gets cranky out of nowhere.
So yes. So I try to tell him about this, Matty. His delivery. Now I get it. Like Severe would say, DB, stop being a baby. The only people that care about delivery aren't people that look like you. But Ravi's, he talks with his eyes and he uses his hands.
The DB Robbie takes,
Yeah.
And so I think last Monday, I don't know if this was because the Super Bowl kept you guys up late or if you just had a bad breakfast or whatever, but there was like a throwaway segment right before a break. A throwaway. Like you guys, I don't even know if you knew you were on air or not because of what you said. But you talked yourselves into the Big East being the 6th best league in the country.
That was me.
I don't know how you guys managed to pull that off, but we need to talk about it.
So, Matt, to be fair, we did circle back a couple days ago.
Yeah, but I tried to convince Ravi, and he wasn't I was actually on the Big East side, and Ravi was having like none of it.
Listen, I say crazy stuff. It's understandable. But you guys had me thinking, like, was there another realignment shift that I missed? Where's the math? Where's the math here on who are the 5 leagues that it started at 6? You didn't start at like 3 and work your way down. You introduced 6 and kind of like stayed there. So I'm like, what happened there?
I think I'm just gonna put this out there. I think what DB accuses me of all the time, which is I just say things and then kind of I roll over him a little bit so he doesn't really know how to react. I feel like that happened to me in that segment. No. Because I went back and thought about it.
Hard and you just kind of agreed to disagree there, like whatever it was.
Yeah, it didn't really process in my brain because we came back and revisited a couple days ago, and I think we decided no lower than 4th, right? Is that where we landed?
Yeah, I think so.
No lower than 4th. Ken Palm has them at 2, which the Big 12, I think mostly everybody agrees is 1. And then there's not, I don't think, a ton of difference between Big East, Big 10, SEC.
Okay.
Is that fair?
All right. So we're having a little bit more reasonable conversation about this. That's all I wanted. I felt like when you guys were starting at 6, I had to get you to a reasonable point.
Here's the thing. I think 5 may be debatable, right? Like if you go
no.
See, he blames me for the 6
because but Matty, you heard this though. I asked him point blank. I said, let's say you go Big 12, Big 10. Okay. Let's just for debate's sake.
Okay.
I asked about the ACC.
right? You did, yes.
I asked about the AC. Now you guys say no quick, but I couldn't convince you that the Big 10, the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC are somehow 1 through 4.
You cannot. Correct. Was that a question? Or
it was a legit question. It was a legit question. It was
cannot convince.
Okay, so they're behind. So the Big 10 is behind or ahead of the Big East?
Yeah,
No.
the Big 10. Yeah, because I think there's a lot. I think there's quality depth there, even though they're
Are they ahead or behind the Big East? In your opinion?
I think they're behind.
Is the SEC ahead or behind the Big East?
Behind by a further gap than the Big 10.
Really? So the Big 12 is the only conference that you like.
Yes.
No brainer.
100%.
Not even the SEC, huh?
You guys,
so Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina.
What?
Well, Kentucky just went on the road and like smacked Auburn.
I'd rather, right?
No, I get the no. So I'm with you. 98% of the time, Maddie, you and I could hold hands. We're like usually lock stock on our basketball takes, but there are like some bad losses for everybody.
I don't know if there's a UNC that rough.
I mean, not everybody can trot out a DePaul in Georgetown. Okay, I mean,
the SEC definitely can. I've heard of Vanderbilt. There's a little school there.
Hey, I don't know if you've seen Jerry Stackhouse suits, but they're pretty sweet.
Vandy and Missouri.
I'm gonna feel bad when he has to go because he looks fly.
So Missouri's a school. Missouri's a school that I wanted to get into on Tuesday when I was talking about conference, like the mystique of a team. Missouri is in that discussion.
In mystique of a team, how?
Because I think they remind me a little bit of Ohio State. They remind me a little bit of like Georgetown, where people like the state plays great basketball. The state of Missouri is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Why the college isn't better?
Fair.
I have no idea.
I'm just saying Vanderbilt, Missouri, not
no. But I didn't use Vanderbilt in the discussion.
But you were talking about they didn't have a Georgetown DePaul to trot out. Vanderbilt, Missouri, not appreciably different than DePaul, Georgetown.
Did you just not see Pippen Jr. on the 10-day contract?
Cool.
Hey, listen, DePaul's got some studs too that they never won with either. So I mean, we try to figure that out.
Yeah, we got to talk about Paul Reed.
I'll leave you with this.
We got to talk about Max Strus.
Hey, he started the other night.
What, Maddie?
You guys know Evan Miyakawa. You know that site that has a very like in-depth player ratings, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So the top 150 players in the country, the top most valuable per 100 possession players in the country,
mm-hmm.
there are 19 of them in the Big East of the top 150.
Okay.
There are 2 leagues with more talent. The Big 12 is way ahead of everybody with 30. The SEC is just ahead of the Big East with 22.
Okay.
They're third. Then you also have 7 of the 11 coaches in the Big East right now have been to an Elite 8 or further in their career.
It is a very well-coached conference.
You not only have the dudes in between the lines, but you got the dudes on the sidelines. So find me a peer there.
I don't know. I'm not going to die on the hill because I like the Big East. But you could convince. Like, I wouldn't be mad if you like the ACC in a total team conference run in March. If you said, if Ravi somehow had some sense and he was like, man, DB, I could see more teams in the ACC making a run than I could in the Big East. I'm not going to be mad at him because the only argument would be, well, it's about matchups. And at some point, you just have to play the games, right?
Hang on. Why'd you say it like that?
I don't know.
You man.
I feel like I'm catching a lot of strays this interview.
That was a big stray, right? I wasn't expecting that.
Oh shoot!
So Creighton gets a lot of Gus for losing to UNLV the way they did, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about the ACC being like, I would take maybe if you put the teams in March, I would take the ACC over the Big East. You know, is Arkansas better or worse than UNLV? Because they handled Duke. Like, I know Arkansas is a flashier name.
I get it. Like, so that's the thing. I feel like a Belgian waffle because I understand what you're saying. I just used Duke yesterday.
Yep.
As a team that's 20-5, and I'm like,
are they that good?
I don't know if they're that good, but
right.
I wouldn't want to play them in March.
No, that's fair.
Do you know what I mean?
I
don't want to play Miami in March. And I think Miami's hit or miss, like feast or famine, but they're very capable. I just watched Virginia get dog walked by the Hokies last night on the road.
And that was when Virginia was like, "Oh, they're right now. Tony Bennett's got it rolling," and then they just went and got smoked.
Not right at all.
Smoked. Not right at all. Yeah, still Virginia.
They were down 20 at the half.
Yeah, they got
with 16 points.
They got smoked.
Got worse after that.
But I'm not sure. Like, so if Virginia played Creighton tomorrow, it's not like you're chomping at the bit to take the Jays. And I'm as big a Mac honk as there is.
Yeah, Ravi and I have had this conversation a lot. We are definitely chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Right, Ravi?
Like,
yeah.
Like, I'll take that all day.
A team that can't score and needs to stop Creighton to survive. No, yeah, please.
Yeah, I'll take that all day.
Can I ask you something before we get to Creighton UConn tonight?
Oh, we're gonna get that.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that today.
Are you all?
So sorry.
See, I don't even like Ravi. We just work together. Maddie, are you all in or all out on FAU?
Oh man, that's such a hard one because every time I do go all in there, they lose. Like, yeah. I don't know. I mean, you know what I think maybe is happening with FAU a little bit, which isn't an excuse, but like I think they might be bored.
Like cruise control into the tournament.
Yeah, because like they've already, they've got the non-con that was just a monster. They beat Butler, A&M, smoked the Virginia Tech team that just beat the brakes off Virginia. Arizona in that 2 overtime thriller. Like, I just think, they have a good win over Loyola Chicago. Like, I think their non-con was so good, they just like jumped into AAC play and they just kind of like hook it up every random night. And, you just never know what you're going to get. I kind of feel like it's that because they're really good. And I think they're really well coached. And
I just look at Davis's game and I was like,
but I still kind of like them a little bit.
I watched Davis play. I just watched him Sunday. Right. And now they ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, they're on a heater down there in South Florida, but he's so, like, it's hard to describe his game. It's like watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know how he does it. Is it the tempo? Mm-hmm. Is it his change of pace? But he is as hard a guard one-on-one as I've seen maybe in college basketball, but it's just not all the time for them.
That's what I mean. I think it's just I think they have like a switch that they're just flipping on and off right now. And that's a dangerous game to play because you just, if you get a non-sexy matchup in that first round game, and they'll probably be in the 8-9 line range, right? So you don't want to play that game because then if you don't get excited for your first round opponent and you don't have it hooked up, then you're going to get beat. They haven't done themselves any favors with who they've lost to, but I still like their personnel. I still like, the way they play. I think they're going to be dangerous because of how they can score. Like that's a dangerous team.
Okay,
if they get on a heater, you can't really shut them off very easily.
Can I ask one more? Can I ask one more non-Creighton UConn question before the final 8 minutes is Creighton UConn?
You can ask.
So Ravi literally wanted to fight me yesterday as we got off the show because I tried to convince him that a close loss at Illinois was significantly more indicative of Nebraska than losing at Chrysler at the end of the year. And he said, "You do know that no team without a road win has gotten in to the tournament." And I said, "You do know that is a trend, not a hard, fast rule. You can change the narrative." And he kicked me off the air.
I mean, I'm not surprised by his reaction.
I think that's a misrepresentation of what happened. For the record, I'm lodging a formal complaint.
I apologize. I think. No, I'm not going to sit on the fence here, but I think I would be in between both of those because I do think it's a problem that Nebraska has such a vast difference in performance level road versus home.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think there's a lot of meat on that bone for Nebraska right now that is going to get them over the hump in a bubble conversation right now. Now they have to finish strong. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're in a weird position right now because they've already blown the doors off Michigan and Penn State, and then they have 5 games the rest of the way that they're going to be expected to win.
Mm-hmm.
With the exception of maybe Ohio State.
Well, yeah, one maybe exception, but even then, that they're going to go into that one as like a toss-up game. So,
please win in Bloomington tomorrow.
That's a tough spot to be in. I'm telling you.
I know because there's no. It's like Crawford fighting Boots Ennis. There's no gain.
Yeah. There's no upside.
There's just no gain. It's all risk.
Everything as a bubble team that they've already done is a weird position because they've already done the big stuff as a bubble team. Now they just have to not mess it up. That's a tough spot to be in because there are teams that they're going to play. Like Michigan's tough at Michigan.
Yeah.
We saw them push Michigan State. Ohio State just beat Purdue. Like Indiana, you don't know what team's going to show up on a given night.
I just hope they wear those black uniforms again, like against Northwestern, so they can wet the bed.
Burn those at halftime. Those are horrible. I'm surprised Adidas still in the uniform game with what they're turning out. So, yeah. Wow. I didn't think black was bad, but man, Indiana pulled it off.
We're talking with Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. So Matt,
all things college basketball.
Yeah, we really hammered the Creighton so far with Matty here, but
he's got range.
He does have range. No, that's what we love about Matt. So I asked this of the UConn guy before you, and I'm curious what your thoughts are because I'm not sure I agreed with his assessment. But if Creighton is to win tonight, what is their path toward victory? What does that look like?
I like how you just threw someone else under the bus too.
Well, I think Dom basically said if Creighton could go small, that was kind of what he arrived at.
Well, he said if he could force UConn to go small, is what he kind of ended up, which I don't know that I agree with.
Yeah, I mean, I think UConn's really hard to guard. So the idea that, that Caravan has to play the 5 for a little bit and stretch the floor, it creates some problems defensively, but nothing that Creighton hasn't seen before, like they've seen stretch bigs. I think so. Creighton's path to victory, I think, is just about the matchups because I think the dudes in this game are so good at each position when you break it down one to one that it's just about who. I don't know if it's going to come down to X's and O's as much as it's going to come down to the execution of that. Like, when you look at the way they're going to match up tonight with Newton versus Alexander and Spencer versus Ashworth and, Shireman versus Castle, like, where do you go for the path for Creighton? I think start the 5 on down. Like, Kalkbrenner has to be more involved than he was in the first matchup, and that starts with the guards getting him the ball, which was really hard for them to do in the first one. So, yeah, they have to handle pressure better. They have to get him involved and set that chain reaction in motion. But they just got to win the matchups. Like, it's going to come down to the Joes tonight. Like, there's so many good players on the floor. I don't know how many NBA scouts are going to be in the building, but I got to feel like
enough for media to have to sit up kind of in the hockey area.
That's where me and Maddie like to hang out anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to have some company tonight. I usually have the whole row to myself pretty much. So, yeah.
Well, save me a seat up there.
Oh, that's cute.
I'll do my best. I always save you a seat.
I know. I do sometimes.
So Matt, let me ask you something. Who's your Big East player of the year? I know we talked about Tristan last week, but I mean Baylor has to, and I agreed with Nick yesterday. Baylor has to enter into that conversation, as does Kolick. Like, who's your Big East player of the year right now?
Right now it's Tristan Newton, but tonight for me is a chance. Like, I think Tristan Newton can end it tonight, I think Baylor Shireman can like say game on tonight. That's what I think is not there. Like Baylor is playing so well right now. We all watch a lot of college basketball. I don't know if there's anyone playing better than Baylor Shireman in the country right now, the way he's going. You know what I mean? When you think about shooting, the playmaking, the rebounding, the defense, he's got a tenacity about him that you can tell he knows time's running out and he's trying to maximize. Like he's a dangerous dude out there right now. And I think, he deserves a lot of recognition for the way he's playing because I'm not sure there's anyone in the country right now doing it at a higher level during this stretch. So I think tonight, Tristan Newton's coming in as the front runner, the odds-on favorite because of the body of work that he's put in so far. But I think if Baylor Shireman has another big one tonight and Creighton wins, then I think it's going to be a heated race down the stretch.
Matt, a couple minutes left here. Are you surprised at the seeming leap that Baylor's taken this year? Because I thought I had a pretty good grasp on who he was as a player, but especially at his age, I was like, he kind of is who he is, probably not going to change many scouts' mind about who he is or can be at the next level, but he's kind of changed my mind about who I think he is or could be at the next level.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I am. I don't know if surprise is the word because I knew he was putting in work, and talking to him when they hit preseason camp, and you could see that his body had transformed. Like
he does look. It does look good.
First game of the season, I was like, he looks different.
Yeah, it does. That's what I mean. It's not always noticeable the work that guys put in, especially when they're that age. Like usually it's marginal, and then it's just, you kind of have to see. Like when we got back to when they started fall camp and you saw what he was, how he looked, you just said, oh man, that guy did something this offseason. And then the other part of it is too, with the way the roster is constructed, he gets to be more Baylor Shireman like that we saw at South Dakota State. So you're adding a year of experience at a higher level. He's clearly made some physical improvements, and now he's putting that in to the body that was all the skills we saw at South Dakota State. So I think there's been a lot of enhancement there from him. He's worked really hard, and seeing all that made me think that he was capable of blowing up like this. To see it be this consistent night to night down the stretch of a season and the hardest part of the schedule is where the incredible surprising part comes in, I think, because he's just been rough solid.
That's Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. After him and DB got done blaspheming me, we got a good 4 minutes of Creighton talk in there. Maddie, I will very likely see you tonight, so enjoy your day, and maybe we'll have some words about how this interview went down when I come up to hang out.
Always a pleasure, Maddie. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate you, Maddie. That's Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Coming up next, we've got more of the Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
Team Natasha.
KFOR in Lincoln. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's DB. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're going to try and not get kicked off the air today. Doing our best here. DB's trying to figure out what he's making for dinner. I'm just
it's weird. I'm just kind of laughing because you and DeMarinis, your relationship is a lot like me and Oklahoma Tyler.
So you know what's funny? I have known Matt for a very long time. We go back to like 2012-ish.
Yeah.
He was actually dating my ex-wife's maid of honor when we got married.
That's
so like
that's weird.
Yeah. And so like both of those relationships long gone.
Yeah.
But me and Maddie still think it's thieves.
Yeah. I think T Mose was probably 14.
Okay.
2014.
Yeah.
And it's weird. At the end of the day, we usually agree. We arrive at it from much different places, though.
Yeah, like your thought processes.
Yeah.
I gave T-Mose a ride home from one of your football games one time.
He's a great dude.
He well, not home. I gave him a ride to his car. It was the Millard South game.
He's a big I'll figure it out guy.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know how much actual planning goes in. He's very spontaneous.
Yeah.
It is the total opposite of me. Like I'm
I
very,
want to know what I'm getting into.
and he makes fun of me for that, right? But
he's a little more adaptable.
Yeah, that's not me.
He it was at Westside Millard South. That was freezing. Right. So I'm hanging out with him and his
football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with him and his kid on the sideline. And
Hollywood.
They apparently they were up at like DJ's up on Q.
Yeah.
And
caught a ride probably.
Yeah, they Ubered down because they're like,
shocker.
Well, so they got done with dinner late, and he's like, we're not gonna find a place to park.
Dude,
Let's
his
just
kids
Uber
have
down.
been taking Uber since I don't even know how, but since they've been like 9.
I don't even think Uber existed then.
But I can't even make fun of him because he was willing to pick Micah up the other night. So like, I don't knock his hustle.
No, and then I was like, guys, I can just give you a ride. It's not a big deal. And he's like, all right, let's do it.
I didn't even knock the hustle. I wonder what district games he's going to.
Well, you got districts this weekend with
Saturday.
Yeah,
we'll have the winner of Northwest and somebody.
You guys have a bye.
Yep, but Brian is the 2.
Okay.
In our district. So, and I think they have Papillion maybe.
Okay.
Who's kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Papillion. They have some good wins and some very strange losses, but I think we have the winner in that district. So A3, because they are the 3 seed. We have, I don't know why this won't blow up, and Lord knows I cannot read. So
you gotta get those glasses on, man.
So they're on my dash.
Oh, well, that's not helpful. That's not helpful right now.
Well, I lost my good ones, and so I had to go to Pisons and get some knockoffs from Burzol. No, Brian has Millard West. Well, he has like 7 pair.
Do you guys have like the same like prescription? Like or are they just readers?
They're readers.
Oh, okay, so they're not like prescription.
Yeah,
glasses.
so he has a case. I don't know if they're ones that people have left in there. They're ones that he uses.
He just has a collection of readers.
And he's like, hey, they're in my case at the end of the bar. Go look. And it's like 9 o'clock or whatever. Of course, I'm not working. And I'm like, gosh, I have a big head. Like, these are why I want to find the black horn rim ones that Severe gave me, but I can't find them.
Steve Sipple would tell great stories about how he would have readers.
He has 1,000.
He has like 1,000. And sometimes he'd wear his wife's. So as long as you're not wearing Jay's readers.
So Sip wears the chain around his.
Yep.
For his readers?
Yes.
Oh my God. That's like the oldest man thing you can do.
Like he has a reader.
Man, I thought it was old womanish.
Is
it a gender thing?
I don't know. I don't know that it is.
Because I'm like,
it's certainly an age thing.
I don't have I'm not secure enough to like do that in public. But he's like, I don't lose them that way. You ought to try it. You're on your like 9th pair. I'm like, pop me kettle. Like you have about 37 of these. But yeah, so I very particular. So Millard West is at the bottom. So we have the plan of Benson, Bell East.
Okay.
And Brian is the 2.
Okay, that's not bad.
No, it's not.
It's manageable.
And A1, it is Bell West, Columbus, Millard, Omaha South Plan, North Star, and Westview. Oh, Westview got a tough draw.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Millard North has
shout out to my guy Spencer, head coach over at Westview.
The play-in of Lincoln High, Bellevue East.
No, he's
2-3 is Southwest and Millard South.
Yeah.
A4 1 seed is Omaha North. The A5 1 seed is Central. The A6 1 seed is Prep. Wow, that's dicey. Prep has North Platte, Kearney, and Lincoln East.
Oof, that's a little rough.
A7, and they get more difficult as you get down, right? So that makes sense. But A7 is Pius, Grand Island, Gretna. How is Gretna in A7 at 18-5?
That's tough.
They're good.
Yeah, they are good.
Like, that's a dangerous team.
Don't.
I did not realize Gretna was in A7.
All the way down there.
Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah, that's not an easy draw.
No, but it's doable. Like Pius, Grand Island, Gretna, and Northeast.
Yeah, I suppose. If you're
yeah,
into
so
that
we don't play until Saturday.
I wanted to ask. I kind of got on this earlier in the show, but I wanted to, since we got one of my least favorite coaches coming to town tonight.
Why do you guys hate on Hurley?
One, because he's a baby.
Stop.
He whines about everything. He is such a whiner. Don't like it. Not a fan.
So you rather he be a little more
composed. Keep your stuff together, man.
But then go ham and pressers like Matt Painter or somebody? Or?
No, I mean, I don't need him. He goes ham all over the place. Not a fan. Get your stuff together, bud. You're an adult.
Wow.
You're like balding. You got the gray hair. Like you should have your stuff more together at this point.
Ravi here for anti-Hurley.
Yeah, not a big hurt. And here's the other thing. So this is why I like him less than Shaka Smart, because I think Shaka's a baby too. But here's why I like him less than Shaka Smart. I do not respect the way he coaches basketball. I think he's very good at it. I do not respect the style of play that he coaches at all.
Why?
Because his entire goal is to make it not a basketball game.
Clutch and touch.
That is the entire point. He's trying to make it as less of a basketball game as possible, and that's how he wins. I don't respect that from anyone, not just Hurley, but then he's a baby on top of it. Get him out of my face. Out on Hurley. No, thank you. At least, Shaka's also a baby, and he might be more annoying than Hurley, but I respect his style of play a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, barely. Hurley is 3 strikes. You're out. Get out of here. I hate it. I hate guys that coach basketball in a way that prevents people from playing basketball.
And it's kind of the antithesis of who the Jays are.
Exactly.
Because they defend. They're notorious for defending without fouling.
Yeah. And because the entire thing with Hurley and guys like Hurley are, we're going to foul you so much they can't call all of it.
How does Creighton get away with tonight without playing as many players as UConn obviously will run at them?
I mean, it's a pacing thing at that point, right? So
your big four is going to get 30 minutes.
Probably like 38 if we're being real.
Let's just being safe.
Yeah, I mean, 30 is what they get in a blowout. Like 30 is when they got a night off. Like, I would not be surprised if Baylor plays 40. I would not be surprised if Kalkbrenner plays 38. Now, it depends on, they maybe like Jason Green a little bit more than they liked Fred King. So maybe you get Kalkbrenner down to like 34, get a couple Isaac Trout minutes in there as well. But Baylor's playing 40. I don't know how you take him off the floor. Trey's probably playing 40. I don't know how you take him off the floor. You're going to have Ashworth probably
30.
North of 30. I was going to say 32, 34. And Kalkbrenner's going to be at 32, 34. After that, okay, what does Francisco Farabello bring you, if anything? Can Jason? This will be like a real test for Jason Green.
I'm excited because I felt like I was lobbying for him early in the offseason.
Yeah.
And people accused me of just because I like him, and that wasn't it, right? Like I try to tell people I'd rather be right than well liked.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
because if you're right enough, people like you eventually.
And or maybe I'll be so secure at some point that I won't care.
I was gonna say, or you can rest on the fact like, hey, I'm always right.
I'm batting 900. You could hate me. No, but I am very, very happy to see him playing well because he's a fantastic person.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna really interested to see what he looks like in this game. Because he can
really help you defensively.
He can really help Creighton if
he's a tremendous rebounder.
And he doesn't need the ball.
Yeah.
Creighton,
that sounds a lot like his high school career.
Absolutely. And he was great in high school.
Yeah.
I'm a big Jason Green guy. I think we would have seen him a lot more if it weren't for the injury at the start of the season, because I think they were high on him too. Coming up next, I do want to do some Hurrdat hot seat. Do you have the least likable Big East coach? Do you have one? Anybody?
Oh, I do.
Okay, we'll get to that.
It's pretty easy.
That's fair. Is it Patino?
Yes.
Fair. All right, we've got Hurrdat hot seat.
It's always been.
Hurrdat hot seat coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. You can catch us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Want to remind you that the 11th annual Team Jack Gala presented by Fat Brain Toys is coming up on February 24th in Lincoln. The event will feature Bryant Young, Pro Football Hall of Famer, as the keynote speaker. Bryant was dominant at Notre Dame and then played 14 seasons for my San Francisco 49ers as well. Bryant's got a personal connection to this cause as his son Colby passed from brain cancer at just 15 years old. He understands firsthand what families affected by childhood brain cancer have to undergo. If you want to be a part of the 11th annual gala or want to just help out Team Jack Foundation in general, go to teamjackfoundation.org. You can donate. You can check out their events. You can also get hooked up with that 11th annual Team Jack Gala. Again, that's teamjackfoundation.org. All right, DB.
All right, Ravi.
So Rick Pitino, that's your guy that you hate?
Yeah, 100%.
Where did this start? Where did the Rick Pitino hate start?
Probably Boston.
Okay, so all the way back, late 90s?
Yeah.
Larry Bird ain't walking through that door?
Well, so full disclosure, I was not a Mashburn, Jamal McGlory. Like I didn't.
Tony Delk?
I didn't like Kentucky either.
So like 96 Kentucky, not your jam.
So, Shepherd, none of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I associate that with Pitino.
Sure, fair.
He goes to the Celtics, which as a Laker guy, clearly
Yeah, he's not going to like him.
Not going to be a fan.
Made a terrific decision to trade Chauncey Billups after like 4 games.
And then it got petty. Like, full disclosure, it's not a him thing. It was probably more a me thing.
Fair.
The white suits, the commanding presence.
Okay.
I'm like, God, this guy really thinks he's pretty sweet. Now, he wins a lot.
He does.
So it's like, I'm sure it just didn't come out of nowhere.
Sure.
But then I was just really immature with it. So it's almost irrational.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
It's almost irrational.
And I mean, I understand my hate for Dan Hurley is absolutely irrational. I mean, that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from.
But I have this is like years. We're talking over 30 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It's a built-up case.
You've got quite the case against him at this point.
It's kind of like Cal.
Coach Cal?
Yeah.
Is that a Kentucky thing too, or where did that start?
Nets.
Okay.
So closet. I don't have a lot of people to share it with, but I love the NBA.
Yeah.
I just only have like 6 people I can talk about it with.
Yeah.
And one of them happens to be my 13-year-old, but
Micah, good dude.
Oh yeah,
Not a tough hang.
No, I got some doozies for you.
Yeah,
he's on a roll. He's on a roll. But so the NBA. I go back a long ways. Just the other day when I dropped the Roy Sparrow reference on here, you're like, Roy Sparrow, do I know that name? And I can't remember why we were talking about sparrows, but
I don't remember.
I looked up Roy Sparrow and I was just showing you. I was like, oh, I was a big Bernard King guy. So. A lot of my sentiment comes from stuff way back. I don't have any, like, my most recent disdain for somebody is probably LeBron.
Oh,
which is relatively current.
Interesting. Where did that start?
I don't know.
I know you were never a fan of him on the Lakers, but you disliked him well before that. Where did that come from?
I just didn't like it. I didn't like the way that he played. I felt like, and this is weird, but
just stylistically how he played? Okay.
Which fits with the way that I critique running backs, the way that I...
It just doesn't hit your eye right?
Yeah.
That was my argument the other day with Lulla. I just don't... I thought he had the skill set to play a different way.
You used to lobby for a guy.
I did.
That choked on his own assist in an all-star game.
He did.
He choked. He pinned it against the rim.
Yeah.
Because he's like 271 pounds.
Yeah, not in good shape, which makes me mad. He plays a style that I really hate, and I don't think leads to winning basketball.
He's probably my most... Yeah, LeBron is probably like where I was just like, yeah, I'm all out.
You're just not a fan?
Yeah. And nobody's graduating from his school either. Like, that's
concerning.
It's just, I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Right? It just didn't come out of thin air.
Okay. That's not where I was going to go with this. That's fine, though. I did want to ask a question because our guy, Matt DeMarinis, who we were talking to, that we were talking to earlier.
By the way, is a big fan of Aquaman, so he and I have a...
Yeah, you guys are both DC weirdos. I don't know what that's all about.
People hate on Aquaman, and I think it's unfair.
No, the movie was pretty good. The first one.
No, the movie was terrible, but the character is legit.
You didn't like the movie?
No.
Not a Jason Momoa guy?
He's okay.
Yeah. I thought it was okay.
I liked him in C. Have you ever seen C?
No. I heard that's like an Apple TV show, right?
I like that.
Okay.
The character gets a bad rep. I mean, he's one of the characters, especially in the DC world, where if you see a meme or something, it's going to be Aquaman like riding a swordfish and something just like something weird. I mean, it's just the Aquaman just does. He gets a bad rep. I don't know.
He does look a little goofy in some of the comics.
Yeah, he looks a little goofy.
I'm a big Aquaman guy.
Okay, fair. That's being a...
Plus, I love the water.
Being a contrarian.
I love the water.
Really?
I love orcas. I love sharks.
That's true. You do.
And it helps my guy from Norwalk plays
I'm
Aquaman. So
yeah, Jason Momoa. That's your guy from Iowa there. I was gonna make a joke that I'm not gonna make.
Yeah.
We've
almost made it 2 weeks without. Now, I knew we were gonna get some calls the other day, especially after the Indian wedding thing, but I think we're okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Dude said extra.
I mean, a little bit. So Matt was on his Bluejay Beat pod after the game with our guy Jacob Padilla, and
I put out the bat signal for JP.
That's because you're still trying to get your tweet fixed, right?
Listen, it's officially Jimmy the Crickets.
Yeah, he's ghosting you at this point, I think.
Yeah, not a. He's probably just getting up.
If that.
Phoenix didn't play last night.
No, he doesn't sleep much. At least not during normal people hours.
Yeah, good point.
He's got
like 3 days to catch up on his sleep before the NBA kicks up again.
He's got an alternative schedule. No, they asked a question I thought was interesting. We got a few minutes here. If you could we're going to take Doug McDermott out of the equation, okay, because that's too easy of an answer. If you could take any player besides Doug from a Greg McDermott team and put him on this year's team.
Mo Watson.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought about Mo.
So here's the thing. I think Baylor could be unbelievable not having to dribble the ball so much.
Okay.
And there would be a lot of easy looks when they go small from whomever is playing the 4.
So you're moving Baylor to the 4.
Yes. The 2-man game between those two,
between Mo and Kalkbrenner, or with Mo and
Baylor would be unbelievable. And here's my number one reason why. Any of Coach McDermott's best offenses, his 4 is stretchy.
True. That's true. My thought.
He's you can't match that dude on the dry erase board when his 4 can shoot.
Accurate. That's why Jackson McAndrew next year is.
I'm just
fascinating.
So, but do you know, strangely, do you know who my other guy would be?
Who?
Kyrie Thomas.
So Kyrie was one of I thought either Kyrie or weirdly, I think Damian Jefferson helps this team a lot.
Toughness. He can't score.
Yeah, his last year he was better there.
But you got to put him with these guys.
No, I understand. But okay, so you've got
like who's he taking shots from in this offense?
Like Mason Miller, basically.
Okay, but Mason Miller played 6 minutes the other night.
Fair.
Which did you?
I didn't realize that.
Notice that?
I didn't realize that at all.
Yes, it was.
That's not a lot.
I may be off, but I am kind of Rain Man. I think he played 6 minutes.
I kind of like DJ because of his versatility. So you don't have to play Baylor at the 4 if you don't want to. You got to move him around a little bit. He brings you the thing that I think this team lacks the most of is
elite level wing defenders.
Yeah, and he brings athleticism, defense. I think was a better spot scorer his last year than people give him credit for. Kyrie's a terrific answer also, because if you think of, okay, let's put Kyrie, Trey Alexander, and Ryan Kalkbrenner defensively on the floor at the same time.
And you don't have to run any set pieces for Kyrie.
No, and he can score a little bit. He's got his jumper was really good by the time he left here. He could take people off the dribble a little bit. You get Kyrie, Trey, and Kalkbrenner defensively, you and me can be out there and nobody's scoring.
Yeah, I don't know about me, but maybe you. And plus,
I'm just fouling.
The other thing that I love about Kyrie,
yeah,
and this is just on a personal level, doesn't need a babysitter.
No, not at all.
He's unselfish, just wants to win. It's never been easy for him, so he doesn't care who gets the credit. Like for me in my life, those people are important.
I'm a huge Kyrie guy. I love Kyrie.
I love KT as well.
He was one of my. I said this, I think, to Nick Baugh, within the first couple weeks of his freshman year where he was starting. I go, that guy's an NBA player. And it wasn't quite there yet. And, he was G League. He kind of bounced up and down a little bit.
And then anywhere but the Pistons.
Yeah.
Which seems to be the place where all good careers go to die.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about the Cade Cunningham experience up there.
So the two knuckleheads at home arguing about the better draft. Was it Cade Cunningham's year or... Boy, I can't remember. And I mean, they just to listen to these two yahoos
who
are Caleb and Micah.
Oh, okay.
Argue. And interestingly enough, the sticking point was Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, I don't know if he's good or not yet. I have no idea.
Yeah, you sound like Micah.
It's true.
You sound like
there's
Micah.
Not enough evidence to tell me if he's good or not yet. So I think we both maybe landed on Kyrie there.
Although I think Mo would probably be my first pick.
Okay, fair.
But I wouldn't be like, hey, put him up.
Yeah,
over Kyrie.
You're not gonna fight me on Kyrie.
Nope.
Yeah,
we could share the hill.
I'm pretty sure Kyrie makes every team better.
Yeah. Jack and Jill you over anybody. I Jack and Jill you down the hill over Damon Jefferson.
Was that a
no disrespect?
Was that a put him up like the Cowardly Lamb from the Wizard of Oz?
Put him up.
Okay.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's Shane Schillerberg in his little Snoopy house over there. That's Hurrdat Sports Radio.